Hi Scrappers, this is Sandy from Scrapbooks Blessings. Today I want to share with you how to do fancy rosettes. They're just like the basic rosette. The only difference is we're going to use a border punch to give us a fancy edge when we do our rosettes. The two that I have here are Martha Stewart punches, but any punch will do. Okay, so let's get started. I wanted to share just a couple tips with you. When you do a punch, I have one here already done. I always start with my cardstock in the middle of the punch, and then when I punch, I pull it towards me. That way I can line up with the grids here. They're on both sides. And that way I can line up. And when I get all the way to the end, instead of moving my punch to the other side like I used to do, all I do is I leave my punch where it is and I just flip my paper over. I'll put it back in and then I keep punching. Okay, so that's tip number one, is just to go ahead, start your punch in the middle, work towards you, and then flip it over, put it back in, and work towards you again. Okay? I'll put that to the side. Okay, so here's my paper. It's 12 inches long by 1.5 inches wide. Okay, now depending on how big or how small you want to make your rosettes, you're just going to change the inches. So you can do 10, 11, 12 inch, whatever you need. Those work the best. The double digits actually work the best. Okay, now I have my scoreboard set up. I've seen tutorials where people put it, they put their paper up here and then they go ahead and they score. What I like to do is I actually take my scoreboard and I rotate it 90 degrees. And since I'm right-handed, I start over here. I just put the strip of paper to my left and then I work horizontally. It's just easier for me to reach. I don't have to reach across the board for such a small piece of paper. And then I can kind of hold the paper and do all the way down. Okay, so that's tip number 2. When you go ahead and score your rosettes, do them horizontal score lines instead of vertical. Okay, now tip number 3. When I do my score lines for a rosette, you want to go every 1/4 inch. So you want to go 1, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 1 3/4, 2, like that. To make it a little easier for me, so I'm not kind of getting all these little score lines, what I like to do is I like to do peaks and valleys. It makes it much easier to fold your rosette if you have a peak and a valley. Let me show you one here that I already did. I started. Peak is the top, a valley is the bottom. Okay, so think of it as the top of a mountain and then the valley at the base of the mountain. When you go ahead and fold your paper, what you get for rosettes are peaks and valleys. Okay, when you score this way and you score at, I'll start here so you can see. So we're going to score 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5, 7. Okay, then what I do is I flip over my paper and I can see where I scored. I started here at 4. Now on the back side, I'm going to score 4 1/4, 4 3/4, 5 1/4, 5 3/4, 6 1/4, 6 3/4. And you can go ahead and see where I'm making my hills, my mountains and valleys, peaks and hills, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and do that all the way down. And like I said, this one I started, you can kind of see I'm just folding back and forth. I'm just going to fold back and forth very quickly and do the whole way. And I have one already done to save us time. So this is what it's going to look like when you're done. Now, by punching it out, you can already see the pretty design there that's starting, the pretty edging. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and put my rosette together the way I would normally do it. And to do that, what I do is I just cut off the end piece, which I already did, so that when I turn it, I can bump up. Here's my peak, Here's my valley peak, and I'm just going to put those together and hot glue them. Okay, so I have my hot glue gun right here. This one is a cordless hot glue gun I got at Michael's from Imaginescence. I don't know. Hopefully they're not watching. So all I have to do is just take my hot glue, put a little dollop, a little dab will do you. Push those together, hold them just for a second or two. Now I've done rosettes, I've used glue dots, I've used adhesive, you know, regular glue, Elmer, I've used everything. But really, the only thing that works the best for this is hot glue. The hot glue gun works the best for keeping your rosette together. Okay, so what I'm going to do after you have your rosette together, get my peak and valley there, all you're going to do is just smoosh it up in the middle and flatten it. Now what you want to do is remember you want your fancy edge at the bottom because that's what you want to flare out. Okay, so you're just going to smoosh it up and flatten it. After you do this a couple times, it does exactly what you want. Now this is where you have to just kind of play with it. The cardstock I'm using is a little heavier weight, so it's a little harder to do, but it'll get there. You just play with it a little bit. And there I have the beginnings of my rosettes. And all I have to do is just squeeze it together. Okay? After you do it for a while, it just becomes easier. You just have to manipulate the paper a little bit at the beginning. Okay? Now to go ahead and finish that, I just took my little circle punch and made me a little circle. And I'm going to put a little dollop of hot glue on there. Push it down. And then just slide it over to my circle. And I'm just going to squeeze it all together and then hold it. And you do have to hold it for a couple minutes, but believe me, the hot glue is the way to go. If you want to, one trick I've done is taken something heavy and put on and let it go ahead and dry that way. You know, put a little book, I put a punch on top of it, you know, whatever you have heavy. Okay, so there's your rosette. You, like I said, you want to hold it a little bit because it's going to pop up. It takes a little bit of time. Okay, so I went ahead and I made, for time's sake, so you didn't have to watch me, you know, hold paper all day. I made my rosettes ahead of time, and there you can see the dots on the bottom. Okay, this one is a pattern paper, pinks and bring it a little closer. It's pink and white flowers on it, and I used for this one I used the Deco Martha Stewart punch, and then this one is the punch that we just used. I waves and dots. I don't know. This actually is one of my favorite punches. Go-to punch. Okay, and like I said, to get the different size rosettes. If you do a 12-inch rosette, it's going to be, this is at 12 inches, 12 inches long, 2 inches wide. This one is at 11 inches long, 1.5 inch wide. So you can see it's a little smaller than this one. Okay. Now to finish this off, all I'm going to do is just take some hot glue and put it on my larger rosette. And then I'm going to put the smaller one right on top. Push those together, and that's going to dry very nicely with the hot glue. Okay, and then I made another circle punch. I used glitter paper. I'm going to take my hot glue gun, just put a little dab right there, and then I got a little embellishment. This one is a little pretty pearl heart. I'm going to put a little hot glue on that, and I'm going to put that right in the middle. And there you have, that is a fancy rosette. It's exactly the same as a regular rosette, but all you did was take your border punches and you gave it a fancy edge. Okay? Hope you like it. If you want to see the project that the card that I put this on, you can go to my blog. It's www.scrapbookblessings with a S.blogspot.com. Have a blessed day. Thanks for stopping by.